You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Latest edition of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com and Minor League Baseball. Hi, how are you? It feels we just did a show last week. Why do I feel like it's been like a month since we did a show? Is it because there are games now?
It could be. Yeah, we go from literally the desert of the off season in which we have no baseball.
The endless off season.
Yeah, to 15 games a day. And then it's just like there's so much baseball happened. Clearly, weeks have gone by, but no, it's just one like it always was.
It's very weird. For some reason, I feel like, oh, man, we haven't done a show in forever. But, yeah, pretty sure we just did one of these last week. Same time, same place. Hey, I'm Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra is in New York City, the once and future king of MLB.com. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm okay. I don't know how I feel about that title, but I guess that's one way of telling folks, there will be some crossover coming up here. We, as part of the restructuring of minor league baseball, there is some new opportunities for us to publish places. There are things in new places. So you might see Tyler's byline. You might see my byline. You might see Kelsey Hennigan, Josh Jackson, anybody on our staff. Our bylines appear over at MLB.com. It's still going to be us. It's still being us providing you the same stuff. The wrapper's just a little different. But MILB.com is still around too. Like we're still going to be writing stories there and keeping the site going strong there in anticipation of the minor league season. So don't be surprised if you see us in some new places, but the podcast is still here. Lots is still happening in its usual spots.
And we are excited to be back with you again as we've got all kinds of baseball news to get to, and we have actual baseball on fields in Florida and Arizona to talk about, and we are really excited for that. Thanks for hanging out with us wherever you found the Show Before the Show podcast, on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify or anywhere else. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription, and you can get in touch with the show as well, podcast at MILB.com, and a whole bunch of stuff to get started on today. We are going to kick things off with some news not exactly baseball related, but related to this podcast and therefore somewhat baseball related. You may have noticed last week, no Benjamin Hill. We have been making the comment to Ben for the last several weeks of the podcast. Oh, future father Benjamin Hill joins the show. He is now current father Benjamin Hill. Congrats, Ben. A little baby arrived last week. I believe the day after we recorded, maybe it was the day that we record. I can't remember. Time doesn't make any sense. But pretty awesome. You've heard from Ben. I would imagine there's been very little sleep for Ben over the last week or so, but pretty exciting time for the triumvirate of the Show Before the Show podcast has its first offspring. Ben.
Yes. It's the Show Before the Show baby. But yeah, Harry James Hill was born on February 24th, checked in at 7.4 pounds, 20 and a half inches. Ben posted that he already has an OPS of 1.423.
Wow.
I can't independently validate that.
Impressive.
But, let's go with it. I really like that Ben also pointed this out, that his son, Harry Hill, is in part named after Harry Callis, the longtime Phillies broadcaster. Anybody who's listened to the show knows that Ben grew up with Phillies baseball and loves listening to the game. Even now, I'll be talking to him outside of work, and he'll be like, yeah, I have the game on in the background, sometimes even on radio. So that seems really cool that even his kid has a baseball tie-in like this. But we're super, super happy for him and his partner, Jill, for the arrival of Harry. As Ben tweeted, the dad jokes are going to commence. And this is somebody who's just been building up these.
I was going to say, Ben's been prepping for that for a long time.
Yeah, he's been using them even without a child in his life, and now
without a license. He's been tweeting dad jokes without a dad license.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard the news, go congratulate Ben. He still has his Twitter account. He hasn't been tweeting for very obvious reasons in the last week, but he's still at Ben's Biz. I'll go congratulate him on the arrival of Harry, and we couldn't be happier for him. And whenever he's back, he'll be here, and I'm sure he might sound a little more tired than he normally does, but we'll get more into it with him then. But yeah, big news, at least on the MILB.com front.
We are so thrilled for Ben, and big congratulations to him, of course, and we can't wait to have him back. But obviously not too soon, because it's going to be pretty great for him to be able to spend some time with the new little one, and not have to deal with us on a weekly basis, which is also probably a win for him. So with that, we're going to dive into talking some baseball stuff as the spring training season is underway in Florida and in Arizona at the Grapefruit and Cactus League sites across the game of baseball. Things look very different this year, obviously. Limited fans, people wearing masks, all of those sorts of things. There are not gloves popping and bats cracking on backfields at quite the rate that there would be on a normal spring training afternoon or morning. And that is because, of course, Double-A and Class A teams not yet at their respective facilities to get ready for the minor league season, which will kick off in May. We have another update to the minor league season that we will get to here coming up in a little bit. But we're going to start things off today talking about the return of the alternate training sites, which is something that will be part of the baseball landscape here to kick off the 2021 season. Of course, you remember the alt sites from last year when it became obvious that holding a minor league season and all the things that would entail in a pandemic riddled 2020 landscape was not going to be possible. The alt sites came into being for each team across Major League Baseball, where players could train and be part of the alternate groups that potentially could be called up or just get some work in for 2020, all of that. Alternate training sites will return in 2021, but there are some changes this time around. There will be a larger taxi squad, a 5-player taxi squad this time. You can only call players up from the alternate site to be placed onto your major league roster. So Sam and I were talking before the show started today, and as he put it, you can't essentially have a guy getting ready for his minor league season in Florida and call him up straight from, if he would have been on the Double-A team, you can't call him to the big leagues. Those are some of the changes. Sam, give us a little bit more of the lowdown on the alt sites coming back to kick off this year.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing we should point out here, because we have so many minor league fans listening to the show, I'm sure you probably are already aware of this, but the return of the alt sites means that AAA is going to be delayed. Unfortunately, when minor league schedules came out, it was announced that AAA was going to start before the Double-A, High A, and Low A leagues. Their opening days were going to be on April 6th and April 8th. There's a lot of hope involved with that. As somebody whose birthday is April 7th, I love the idea of AAA opening days on April 6th and April 8th. But unfortunately, in some ways, fortunately, right? Like the reason why they decided to push it back is because we got some really good vaccination news this week. President Biden announcing that basically we're going to have enough vaccine to go around so everybody in the country, knock on wood, can be vaccinated by the end of May.
Which is pretty incredible.
So if you are going to be cutting it that close, why push things in the beginning of April? As a lot of people know, AAA West is going to involve a lot of travel, a lot of plane travel specifically. You don't want players getting caught on that, potentially catching something, and et cetera down the line. So delay of a month, hopefully players can get vaccinated in that time. Everything can be a little bit safer. And hey, maybe AAA parks can be a little bit more full on their actual opening days come May. So that's one piece of news we should talk about. The other one, in terms of alternate sites, it's going to be really fascinating to see how these rosters work. They are going to be different from the alternate sites that we knew in 2020. It's a phrase I was really hoping I would never have to say again, but COVID being what it is, we are still in this scenario. As you'll recall, last year's alternate sites were popped with top prospects, guys that organizations really wanted to make sure got enough time during the summer to continue their development. So you'd see like Francisco Alvarez in Mets camp at the alternate training site here in Brooklyn, even though he hadn't played Class A ball yet. You can go down the line. We talked to a lot of guys who were at alternate sites last year. Ryan Weathers actually made the majors after spending some time at the alternate site, but he had never played above Low A before. So you're not going to see that this time around. What it really sounds like is the players at the alternate sites are essentially going to be what the AAA team would be. Now, there might be some exceptions there. You might send somebody to the alternate site who's kind of on that AAA, AA line. But because of what Tyler mentioned about only players at the alt site can be called up to the majors, you're not going to have your Low A, High A players taking up roster space there. that space becomes a lot more valuable now. It's not just guys working out, because they're going to still get those workout opportunities in Florida or in Arizona once minor league camp really expands out, and double A, high A, low A rookie ball guys are allowed to go to their camps starting at the beginning of April. Those opportunities are still going to be there in ways that they weren't in 2020. So if somebody isn't sent to the alt site, it's not a big deal. It just means the team really does not expect that player to be called up in April. They could still get that chance in May. They could get that chance in June when everything really does start going again. And we're talking about a true minor league season. But it's just something to keep an eye on. Who are these teams sending? And what does that say about their status of where they would open the season? Because if they're going, that probably means they are strictly AAA players.
And with that, we get a chance to talk about some guys who will be factoring in on the landscape in the perhaps major league season, certainly minor league season in 2021. And it is really cool to have, this feeling in the back of our minds that, oh, maybe, you push this back to beginning of May, maybe by June, July, certainly August later in the season, we're going to see fuller ballparks, like you said, Sam. And I know there was a conversation I had with a AAA West front office member who said, as of when the new league footprints were announced, over half of AAA West was unsure of whether or not they'd be allowed to have any fans in the ballpark when the season opened. So being able to push the season openers back, I think, is a big step in that direction. And there are going to be a lot of exciting talents for fans to go see this year. And already some guys who are making some big impacts in Major League Spring Training. I know Wander Franco yesterday hit a home run that I believe still has not been located as of where it landed, the Tampa Bay Rays top prospect and the top prospect in all of baseball. Spencer Torkelson is in camp with the Detroit Tigers, a guy who I know we had a story on MLB Pipeline today about Nate Pearson shut down for the Toronto Blue Jays. Royce Lewis, the injury news for him that we talked about last week. So ups and downs, obviously, all over the place throughout camp. Cade Cavalli, a fairly recent guest of the podcast, a professional debut in his first inning of work today. Jared Kelenic has been fantastic for the Seattle Mariners. Julio Rodriguez, very fittingly, had a walk-off base hit on the first day of of games for the Mariners, and drove in Jared Kelenic with that walk-off base hit. Sam, some of the biggest standouts early on in Arizona and in Florida to you have been whom?
Yeah, I'll pick up on that Cade Cavalli story, because one thing that stood out to me today in his post-game comments, which Tyler, I give you full credit for this, because I would not have asked this when we talked to him on the interview, but he offered to cut David Martinez's hair.
Cade's cuts on Instagram. Cavs cuts, I believe it was. Cavs cuts on Instagram.
Yeah. So that apparently is carried straight to
and obviously because they all listened to our interview. It was for no other reason. They just heard on our interview talking about Cade Cavalli and his shearing and his trimming and all the skills that go along with his hairstyling.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, your question put it on my radar, and now it's on everybody's radar. So maybe he will actually be the national scene barber earlier than we expected.
I guess we should explain this if somebody is tuned in who did not listen to that episode. Cade Cavalli, first draft selection of the Washington Nationals last year. He's kind of a hair cutting connoisseur, something that he picked up during his time at the University of Oklahoma, where he essentially said that he got a haircut and he thought to himself, oh, I can do this. And then just picked it up and got really good at cutting hair, and used to cut teammates' hair when he was with the Sooners. And yeah, has kind of gotten, I think he said he did it last year for a few people in the Nats organization, but now it's part of his repertoire.
Yeah. Now it's spreading to Major League camp. And honestly,
fastball, curveball, changeup, hair cutting.
Well, I'll point out too, he did hit 98 on the gun. Watching the StatCast data come in for his start today was really exciting, and seeing him pump that velocity is a reason why he was a first round pick last year, why the Nats were very excited about what he did at the alt site, and why he's a top 100 prospect now. But honestly, how many times have we heard stories from prospects being like, I'm just trying to fit in spring training camp however I can. And especially now, in which there are so fewer opportunities to just hang out in the clubhouse, and everything is so different because of protocols. Finding your niche and finding a way to be a glue guy, to be someone everybody likes to have around. It's an advantage that Cade Cavalli has now, and then good for him for finding that avenue. But in terms of guys actually performing on the field, under Franco, you mentioned hitting that home run, really turning on a fastball and getting all of it. Enjoyed his post-game interview in which he said he didn't see it land, which is crazy. But if you watch the video, it did land on a building beyond the right field fence. So he really got all of it. As many people were saying, like, that's why he is the top prospect in baseball. It is not just hit tool with him, even though that is the 80 that we all love to talk about, but the power is legitimately plus. He can really turn on balls, spray them all over the yard. But when he really pulls one like that, he can yank it like with the best of them, really. So seeing him get to do that was pretty special. Jared Kelenic, you mentioned, getting driven in by Julio Rodriguez. That was a lot of fun just to watch in terms of all the narrative that's gone around the M's the last couple of weeks. But also there was, I can't remember who was broadcasting the game, but the game was on TV, which if you've been following spring training is a little hit and miss on what games are on TV and which aren't. But this one was, and somebody was saying about Jared Kelenic, he'll tell you when he's ready. And literally as the sentence was finishing, he connected on a home run to center. It was so perfect. It was borderline poetic how that worked. I still don't know if he's going to open camp with the Mariners or not, but the fact that he keeps doing these things and coming just as advertised is going to make that conversation very, very difficult for the Seattle front office. Especially, I know they're trying to say, like, this guy does not have much experience above A ball. I get that, but he was at the alternate site all last year. He was facing essentially AA, AAA competition. He was making the most of it like anybody else was in 2020. So I think it's a little disingenuous to say he has limited experience because what they were trying to give him at Tacoma was as close to high level experience as he could get. So I think he's making the most of this camp. It's great to see him come through with that power for sure. Some of the other guys that have stood out to me, Bobby Dahlbeck continuing to show off his power. I think he has 3 home runs, which is either tied for the spring training lead or the out and out. Yeah, it's tied with Joey Gallo as of right now for the spring training lead. Not a big surprise there for Bobby Dahlbeck. The power is his calling card. It's going to be a big deal for him. But the fact that he's bringing it to spring training and potentially winning out that first base job in Boston because of that power is certainly promising. Sticking in that same organization, one of the best performers of the entire spring, regardless of prospect status, has actually been Jarren Duran, who, if you follow reports coming out of Pawtucket last year, the Red Sox were really enthused by what he was able to do with his power. He's a big speed guy. You could throw a 70 on his speed tool. But the thing with him was he was always hitting the ball on the ground, which could work in certain places. It certainly worked at Class A Advanced Salem when he started out his career. He kind of hit a wall at AA, but he needed to elevate the ball more and really try to tap more into that power. And the Red Sox said that was happening at Pawtucket. We saw some highlights of it, but we wanted to see it in game action. It happened a little bit this winter in Puerto Rico. He went down there for Winter League ball.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that. He started really slowly down there, and then toward the end of the season in Puerto Rico, blew up, went to the Caribbean Series, and his slash line in 7 games the Caribbean Series was 400, 500, 640. So got something figured out toward the end and through the playoffs in Puerto Rico and then on into the Caribbean Series, which has been, he's right around that age right now for prospects. He turned 24 in September. When you get to that stage, 23, 24, 25, it's kind of finishing school at that point. So it's, I wouldn't say it's a make or break sort of stage for him, but it certainly looks like he's ready to make.
Yeah. And I don't want to take credit for this. Alex Spear of the Boston Globe tweeted this out before me, but the idea that Duran getting all that experience this winter, he's basically showing up in game shape. There's not really much ramping up he has to do. So that could be playing a factor here. He might just be, his swing is exactly where it needs to be as opposed to some of these pitchers who are working on some things. But again, when the question for him was, okay, let's see the power play, and it has this quickly this spring, is certainly promising. Some other names I'll just throw out there. Ke'Bryan Hayes, probably the NL Rookie of the Year favorite going into 2021, is off to a quick start, 4 for 8 at the plate. He's got a triple and 2 doubles, so he's doing basically exactly what he was doing at the end of the year last year for the Pirates. Mackenzie Gore got a start today. Did not look particularly great. I'm never that worried about pitchers early on. Usually they're working on stuff. They're trying to see how pitches fit and then making adjustments for theirs from there, excuse me. So he gave up some hard hit balls. He actually rolled the first inning. They didn't allow him to finish it because he had too many pitches in that first inning. So not great for Mackenzie Gore, especially at a time when he wasn't called up last year. We thought he would be the first man up for the Padres. He wasn't. He's kind of the sixth man in the rotation right now. He needs a strong spring to make his case. That's not happening, at least in this first outing. We'll see what adjustments he makes from here and how things improve. But keep an eye, especially on his delivery, because I know that was a big point of emphasis for him last year at the alt site. And one other name I'll throw out, because I wrote about him this week, is Taylor Trammell. Now with the Seattle Mariners system, we've talked so much about Kelenic and Rodriguez, and Kyle Lewis is coming off an AL Rookie of the Year campaign. That outfield is going to get crowded real quick. Trammell is the number 100 overall prospect in MLB Pipeline's rankings. He is a legit prospect in his own right. He didn't really hit that much in 2019. He was traded in 2020. He has a lot to answer for if he's going to be something other than the fourth outfielder for Seattle. He's hit a home run so far. It sounds like he's making a lot of hard contact. He's done that in the past. Both Futures games he's been in, I've been really impressed by the amount of hard contact he makes. So if he can keep doing that on a consistent basis, maybe he can carve out a role with the Mariners. I don't know exactly what that will be. Julio Rodriguez, in all likelihood, is a few months away from a debut, so maybe Trammell can cut in line there. You never know how things are going to sort out. The Mariners would love to have too many outfielders, but keep an eye on how Trammell tries to elbow his way in, because this is his first Seattle camp after getting traded from the Padres in the middle of last season.
So a lot going on in the world of baseball right now, which is pretty exciting and something that just feels good to have some real baseball to talk about and some prospect performances and all of that. And we are just a couple of months away from the start of the minor league season, the anticipated May start of the minor league season, and can't wait to get to that as well.
This past year has shown us that without your health, you have nothing. If you're not well, you can't work, look after yourself, or take care of your family. You can't enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. That's why you need to prioritize taking care of your long-term health today, before it goes from good to bad to worse. So invest in your long-term health with Forward. Forward is intelligent medicine with a personal touch. Their doctors are dedicated to catching top killers like cancer and heart disease early before it's too late. And catching them early could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. Everyone's health history is different, which is why Forward doctors personalize a health plan with you, based on your genetics, lifestyle, and biometrics to achieve long-term results and ensure nothing gets missed. It's time to invest in a doctor that's invested in you. Go to GoForward.com today to protect your future health. That's GoForward.com. GoForward.com.
We're very pleased this week to be joined on the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show, on a big week for AAA baseball, as we discussed in the last segment. We're joined this week by Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders president John Adams. John, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. You know what? I'm doing all right. I'm ready for some baseball.
Yeah, I think we all are. And it's been good to get into the swing of things with spring training. But as we found out, AAA is going to be delayed a little while. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I just wanted to start out because I was looking over the Rail Riders website and your bio. You started in this role with the Rail Riders in January 2020. So I guess my first question is, how have your last 15 months been?
Not what I anticipated my first 15 months of the job being. It's first 2 months obviously were a bit of a whirlwind, right? You're coming into a new organization, you're trying to get your arms wrapped around things, get to know the staff while at that time preparing for a season. And then I still remember it was March 16th last year, so we're not too far out of the 1 year anniversary, having a meeting with our staff and saying, hey guys, we got to go home for 2 weeks. And it looks like we might miss the first homestand, but we'll be ready to go. And those 2 weeks turned into, where we're at today. Certainly it wasn't what I anticipated. But at the same time, it wasn't the ideal situation, but that's what everybody in the entire world was dealing with and had to deal with. So it's been a lot more spreadsheets than, baseball diamonds than what I would like. But, we got through it, and, we're a lot closer to getting back to that point now again.
Right. Yeah. And let's get to the big news of the week now. Finding out that season's going to be delayed again. We were talking a little bit before we started here. It is kind of good news in that it sounds like everybody could be vaccinated in the United States by the end of May. That's great. It seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but at the same time, it was safer, or Major League Baseball decided it was safer to start the AAA season May 4th instead of April 6th when you guys in AAA East was going to be. What was the reaction with the Rail Riders to that news, and how are you guys feeling about having to start now on May 4th?
Yeah, listen, yes, we much would have preferred to, start games on April the 6th, right? Let's just get back to baseball. I think, certainly myself and our staff are ready to get back to that. Certainly our community, the anticipation of getting back to the ballpark and watching Rail Riders baseball is through the roof. At the same time, it wasn't totally surprising. Just like everything else, a lot of common sense and kind of seeing what's going on around you, helped kind of justify and realize that the decision, it makes sense, right? Give an extra month to keep everyone safe. AAA is always, they're always going to be more protective of AAA than single A and AA, just because of the level of integration with the major league team and guys constantly going up and down, and there being a lot less resources at the AAA level to keep the players safe. They're on buses, they're in hotels, a lot more frequently, than without the resources that Major League Baseball has going through that process to keep the guys safe. So it made sense. I think the one thing, when the schedule came out, April 6th was the opening day. But I think there was always this little bit in the back of our head that, how is this realistically going to happen? Pushing it back a month. And for us, it pushes the home opener back to May 11th. I think we have a high level of confidence that this is going to happen, and we can put a pin in this, and we're going to be playing baseball with fans in our ballpark on May 11th. And we feel like that's going to happen, and we can get excited about it.
Yeah, and I know so much of the discussion at every level of sports right now is percentage of fans that could be back. Obviously, that's kind of, you're under the guidance of the Pennsylvania state government on that. What is the status of that? What are things looking at, like where you guys could be come May 11th when you guys face off against the Iron Pigs?
Yeah, so as of last week at this time, we were at 10% capacity. They, within the past week, increased it to 20% capacity. For our ballpark, it's easy to figure out. We're a 10,000 seat facility. So you take, 20% of that, and we could, if the season started tomorrow, we could have 2,000 fans back at the ballpark. We are certainly anticipating that increasing at least another 10% before the opener.
Oh, very cool. And I feel like the answer to this might be a little obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Like, what effect does this have on you guys as an organization? I'm sure part of it is just like, well, now your April is obviously much more open. But what does the pushback do for you guys in terms of planning for opening day and getting things ready? The alternate site obviously has a big effect, but in terms of planning for actually a AAA season, what does this pushback do for you guys?
It's helpful, right? Anytime, there's been, very few answers along the way, and not, all the knowns of getting ready for a season that you typically have on a normal year. So pushing it back another month certainly gives us ample time to make sure we have all of our policies and procedures in place and ready to go. So that's certainly helpful, from that standpoint. And also I think it does give us, that extra month to get increased capacities from the state. And when we do have that opening day, to be able to let more people into the ballpark.
And so let's get into what an alt site is, because you guys were the alt site last year for the Yankees. I'm sure it was kind of nice to have some baseball at PNC Field, but take us through the logistics of what that's like from a minor league team side, because we hear about what, the major league operations of it are in terms of guys getting sent on taxi squads and what workouts are like, but when you are at the field and you are the alt site yourself, how does that work from your guys' side?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, last year, a lot of the work from the minor league front office side came in the prep, and getting ready for that, right? There was lots of things to figure out. How are we going to create kind of the footprint of, distancing and testing and sanitization and cleanliness and all of those kinds of things. We used the entire footprint of our ballpark to accommodate the taxi squad last year. So, it was meeting with the folks at the Yankees. They came in, did a walkthrough, talked about what needs they had and what we had to do at our ballpark to be able to host them. And then, once we got everything set up and ready to go, we were pretty hands off. I mean, really the sentiment was more, hey, you guys stay in your front office and work on your business and give the rest of the ballpark to us, so that we can, reduce the exposure as much as possible to our coaches and players and staff. So, while they were here actually practicing, I never stepped foot outside of our front office, onto the concourse, and, didn't even see a single batting practice pitch, because, it was, how do we keep these guys as safe as possible, and exposing them to us was just additional exposure. So it was pretty turnkey from our standpoint. We helped get set up. We set them up with some more vendors and obviously housing and all of those kinds of things. And then once they were off and running, they did their thing and we did our thing, and certainly helped out where needed, but it was pretty minimal.
And after that walkthrough,
we have the system in place. Now it's waiting to find out what has changed, in the past, 6 months or whatever it's been since they've been here. And are there maybe some loosening of some restrictions where we'd love to be able to host some fans and let them in and watch practice. We'd love to be able to let the media in and let them get some coverage as we build up through our opener and kind of give our fans some exposure to some baseball in advance of the opener.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And in that initial walkthrough that you went with the Yankees to say, like, this is the facility, this is how we're planning on working things, what were, if any, the alterations that you guys had to make to get ready last year?
The good thing is we have, relatively new ballpark with a lot of space. So there weren't really any major projects that we had to undergo to create the space for them. We had the space. It was just more of, all right, they want to use this room. That's where we have all of our promotions and all the giveaways that came in last year that we never used. We had to get them out of there and put them somewhere else. They used both both clubhouses. They used the clubhouse, the concourse. So it was more of just clearing the space and getting the space ready to go. But we didn't have to, because we have a ton of space at our ballpark, we didn't really have to make any alterations for that.
Yeah.
It's more of getting a cleaning company in there and disinfecting, on a daily basis, a deep disinfecting, and on an ongoing basis of if a guy picked up a weight, there was someone there ready to wipe it down when he put it back down and all of those kinds of things. So, there wasn't, we were fortunate. I know there's some other facilities that had to do a lot more than what we did, but we have a really nice ballpark that was able to accommodate.
Yeah, and for anybody who hasn't been to PNC Field, I really like, in the best of times, how kind of an open air concept it is. So I feel like it works really well for that alt site. But one of the changes that is being talked about, and I don't know if this has gotten to you guys yet, if this is something you've been asked to plan for, is the potential for alt site teams to play each other. And you guys are in Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley is not that far away. Is that something you guys have talked about maybe having to play to, like, prepare for two teams to be there?
It's not. I mean, what was communicated to us when the announcement came out a couple days ago was that our Major League Baseball partners will be, on site and working with us to figure out how we get ready for that. But we haven't had those conversations yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, it is still very much early days in alt site planning for sure. One of the other big things of this offseason, of course, was the minor league restructure. I don't think anybody ever doubted that you guys and the Yankees were going to split apart. You guys signed a PDL. But just take us through what that process was like for you guys who have such a strong relationship with the Yankees. We're never on any list of getting cut or losing status or losing affiliation, but just going through that and having to officially sign the documents in that PDL.
I think the more challenging part was more of just trying to understand, right, how is this going to affect our day-to-day business, right? What is Major League Baseball going to do? And delayed a schedule coming out and didn't know what teams were going to be our league and how the league was going to be structured. And, kind of combine that with the unknowns of the pandemic. What it did is just take away, a lot of, planning that could go into a successful season and just put you more in a reactive kind of mode. But you're right. We never, for a second doubted, that we were going to be AAA and the Yankees were going to be our affiliate because of the relationship that we have with them. So I think we had a lot less anxiety on our plates from that standpoint than, what a lot of other teams might have had. So that part really didn't impact anything. We always planned as if we were going to be a AAA and we were always going to be Yankees. It was more of, all right, the day-to-day business, what changes are going to be made. And, there's, for example, there's no longer an international league. And what's that mean? What shared services are there going to be? What best practices are there going to be? What teams are going to be in our league, and how we handle transportation and housing change, and just all of those kinds of little details that we found out recently and are reacting to. But that was more of how it impacted kind of the day-to-day front office side on the minor league side.
Yeah, and when you look at this new AAA East, things are going to be different this year. You guys are mostly playing teams close by, but it is a now 20-team league, expanding as far west as St. Paul and Iowa and Memphis and all these other new teams that have been added. What are the opportunities and the challenges of dealing with a league that big and that wide, really?
Well, I mean, the opportunity, obviously, as you mentioned, this year is different. And this year, I think we'll just be happy to have baseball back and, playing 4 teams, 6 teams, whatever, people can come back to the ballpark and enjoy not just baseball, but, just the community experience, so this year any baseball is, going to be fantastic long-term. I think the benefits are, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to play new teams, different farm systems, and create more variety in what our fans experience at the ballpark. The challenges are going to be travel. We've been historically been a bus league, and just about everybody in the league was within traveling distance from a busing standpoint. And there'll probably be some more flights integrated into our plans, which creates some additional logistics with hotel and local busing of getting guys to if they fly in right now, they need local busing to get from the airport to the hotel, from the hotel to the stadium, from the stadium back to the hotel, from the hotel back to the airport, and those kinds of things. Fortunately, I've been in the Arena Football League for a long time and kind of used to that kind of situation. And but ultimately, I think the offset of any traveling challenges, I think the resources that Major League Baseball is going to bring to the minor league baseball experience long-term is going to be really beneficial to the 120 teams that are part of the PDL system.
And not to look back at 2020 too much, but one thing you guys lost last year was the AAA All-Star game.
Yeah.
What was the effect of losing that? And I know you guys have done AAA national championship games. There have been some big games held at that park, but what was the effect of losing that one last year?
I mean, that was the most devastating thing of last year, because I think, our entire region was really excited to showcase Northeastern and Northeastern Pennsylvania, right? And we usually just say NEPA. Everyone around knows what NEPA is. that was really disappointing, because I think we had a big opportunity, not only from a impact on local businesses and all the people coming in from out of town was going to have, we anticipated on taking what is traditionally the All-Star game and blowing it up with bigger events and bigger opportunities than even what traditionally happens. So we were really excited about it. The community was excited about it, and disappointing to lose it. I think the fact that we lost it on, in the middle of something that was a world crisis made it a little more palatable. And we'll wait to see what happens if we're able to get that back, or if Major League Baseball changes what they do. We still don't have any clarity there.
Fair enough. And well, looking forward more than back to the season and optimistic things again. So much about running a minor league baseball team is running promotions and trying to get people to the ballpark. And when you're dealing in 2021, I feel like part of it is just the attraction is just going to be baseball. Like there might not even need to be that much promotion, but it is still part of the minor league game. With the caps that are going to be on attendance, how are you guys kind of planning to work promotions in and still include that aspect of what makes the minor league so fun?
Yeah, I think the challenge is going to be more on the giveaway side, and what the restrictions are going to be with, just kind of that sharing of, trying to limit the amount of contact, that happens within the ballpark. So from that standpoint, we'll kind of push some of those things back into the later summer months, where hopefully we're in a much better position and are able to do those kinds of things. In the beginning, we'll still have the weekly promotions, all of the things that make minor league baseball special on a game-by-game basis, and theme nights and all of those kinds of things. It'll probably be more in park, more heavily video board oriented. We don't know how much access, for example, we're going to be able to have with promotions teams and mascots on the field and getting close to players and those kinds of things. So our plan is to be video board heavy with everything that we do, at least in the beginning part of the season. And hopefully as the season goes on and the vaccine distribution gets more significant, we can get back to more of what a normal experience is.
And all right, John, we'll end on two last ones here. When we do get back, and again, right now it's May 11th is opening day for you guys, when that's circled. What is going to make it feel like it's back to you, and what is the moment you're looking forward to most when the Rail Riders face off against the Iron Pigs there on the 11th?
Whew, what a good question. I think it'll feel pretty normal just because it will be baseball, and we'll have fans at the ballpark. I think when the Rail Riders take the field, for the first time, and that's announced with PA system and some pump music blaring and fans standing up and cheering. That's going to be a really special moment. I think the only thing that's going to be disappointing, and that is, we might only have 3,000 people there instead of 10,000 people to enjoy it. So I think it'll be a little bittersweet from that standpoint. But ultimately, we'll get back to a point, hopefully later in the season, where that moment does occur. Maybe it's 4th of July weekend or a special night in August or whatever, and we'll celebrate that appropriately. But I think where it's going to feel like we're back is when the team takes the field and let's play ball.
And one follow-up to that is that a different part of the schedule this year is that there will be 6-game series with Mondays off all the time. So you guys, so much of what we talk about in minor league baseball, pretty much from every aspect, is the grind, whether it's players or front office members or stadium workers. So what are you guys looking forward to or anticipating about having to deal with these 6-game series that could mean, the Monday break is going to be helpful, but there could be 12 games in 13 days at the ballpark, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think that affects the baseball side more than our side. We're used to long days and long homestands, and there'll be a couple longer than what they used to be, but at the same time, it'll be a little bit of a reduced season at this point, right? So, we're used to the grind on our side. I think the longer homestands are going to more impact the baseball side, where, from a pitching standpoint, right, you're going through the rotation 1+ times, against the same team in a short period of time, and you're seeing all those relievers, multiple times in a short period of time. I think that's going to impact the baseball side of things more than we're going to continue to, grind it out on long days and long homestands, and we're going to continue to put on a great entertainment experience as best we can within the guidelines that are available to us. Just on the baseball side, I think it's going to change things from a manager. I wouldn't want to be a manager, managing Game 6 of a homestand.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. I wouldn't want to be a player who's got to face the same guy over twice, or a reliever 3 or 4 times in a series. I could get old, but we'll see how that's going to go. It's a game of adjustments, right?
I have to think it's advantage hitter, right? You get to see the pitcher multiple times and know what he's doing.
Yeah. We'll see how it's going to work out. All right, John. Well, we will end on this one. I'm sure it's a question you get all the time, but since it's your first time on the show, I do have to ask it. You are President John Adams. How much flack do you get for that? Like, are people playing Hail to the Chief when you walk around the office? Like, what is it like being with that name and that title?
I lived it for a long time, and even kind of to add on to that, I was President John Adams in Philadelphia for about 12 years.
So, yeah, there you go.
There's comments, but it's obviously on a day-to-day basis. and not really something that's played up a whole lot. But usually it's that first meeting with people, and they make the oh so unique joke. I'm pretty.
I know. It's not a out of left field question. I just
I'm yelling pretty into their going and pretty lighthearted guy. So
good. You got to roll with the punches on that one. So I guess the obvious follow up, which I'm sure you get all the time too, is your middle name is not Quincy, right?
It is not. No.
All right. Good. That would be a little too on the nose. All right. Well, John Adams, president of the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, thank you so much for joining us. Every day, even with the delay, we are getting closer to the return of AAA baseball, which is a great thing for all of us. I'm sure we'll catch you down the line, but looking forward to hopefully seeing you maybe at PNC Field this summer.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you having me.
Final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show, but we're not throwing this as our goodbye segment. As if you were with us last week, you will recall. It's time for the second edition of our brand new segment, Better Known Affiliate Structure, which I wish I could toss to a Colbert Report-esque package right now with a whole lot of editing and snappy sound and production and all that, but it sounds like a lot of work. So we're just gonna get right into it. Last week we did the National League West. This week, continuing along in the senior circuit, we're going to move to the National League Central. Sam and I will trade off in the teams, the 5 squads, 5 clubs in the National League Central, and their 4 minor league affiliates each. And we will kick things off with the Chicago Cubs, who have 4 teams returning to their minor league family from the past several seasons. At the AAA level, the Iowa Cubs in Des Moines, just across a state border on I-80, west from the city of Chicago, almost like directly west from the city of Chicago. The AAA affiliate of the Chicago Cubs remains the Iowa Cubs. Tennessee Smokies, the AA affiliate of the Cubs, they will stay in that spot. The one flip-flop in this organization, the South Bend Cubs, formerly the Low A affiliate, now High A, located in South Bend, Indiana, less than 100 miles away from Chicago, and the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, a team near and dear to my heart, now the Low A affiliate, formerly in the Carolina League, and now the Low A squad in the Chicago organization. Sam, the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, so the Cincinnati Reds, not a lot of change here. The AAA team will continue to be the Louisville Bats, only 106 miles away from Great American Ballpark. AA Chattanooga Lookouts. The Lookouts had a bit of a history with the Reds previously. They had been a Reds affiliate from 88 to 2008. Then there was a little bit of a hiatus. They came back on board in 2019. Now this will be extending even further. Again, another flip-flop here. High A will now be the Dayton Dragons. Dayton, consistent sellouts, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they have consistent sellouts at their ballpark when it is safe to have a bunch of people in Dayton, Ohio, gathered in that way. So it makes a ton of sense for them to still be around. They're actually closer than Louisville. They're only 55 miles away from Cincinnati. And then now the Low A club will be the Daytona Tortugas. big fan of them sticking around for sure. Anybody who had been following the back and forth of how the restructure was going to look, it sounded like the Tortugas were kind of right on that line. But luckily they stay in. They will now be the low A affiliate of the Reds. Jackie Robinson Ballpark, still a minor league ballpark, still an historic structure that we get to keep around. So just the biggest update here, again, just to reiterate, players will now go from Daytona to Dayton. They used to go from Dayton to Daytona. Now they're going from Daytona to Dayton.
Now
It's a very confusing system, but that's the way it goes.
Oddly enough, you drop the letter A despite climbing in the Class A classification. It's a little weird.
Yeah, there's no easy way to remember that. You just have to memorize
No,
it.
it's not really a mnemonic device that makes that easy at all. The Milwaukee Brewers, getting back together with an old ex, the Nashville Sounds, now the AAA affiliate of the Brewers. They were the affiliate of the Brewers at that level from 2005 through 2014. Now back with the Brewers, and they did one of the best rollouts of their affiliate announcement. Nashville has leaned heavily into the music city, the record vibe, the old time kind of musical history of Nashville. And the tweet that went out when they announced their affiliation with the Brewers was a record spinning on a turntable playing All My Exes Live in Texas with the Rangers logo. We've been their parent club for the last several years. And then it flipped over and the Brewers logo on the back came up, and it was a comeback song. Now I can't remember what song it was, and so this ends up being a dumb description. But anyway, go find it at Nashville Sounds on Twitter. The Biloxi Shuckers in the AA ranks, they have been the affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers in AA since Biloxi's debut season back in 2015. And then yet another flip-flop, Carolina League and Midwest League formerly for these two teams. Carolina Mudcats moving down to low A, the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, who are only 104 miles away from Milwaukee in Appleton, Wisconsin. That is the new high A affiliate for the Milwaukee Brewers. And Carolina actually owned by the Brewers since 2017. That'll now be the low A club.
All right, moving on to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Not much change here. I feel like that's kind of the theme here of the NL Central. There are some wide changes in some of these organizations, but the NL Central is pretty well set in stone. For the Pirates, we got the AAA club, the Indianapolis Indians. Indianapolis, a very old franchise for minor league baseball, goes all the way back to 1902, as Tyler knows. They were a Pirates affiliate for some time in the middle of the 20th century. But they rejoined the system in 2005. Again, that'll be extending out here. AA Altoona, the Altoona Curve, another Tyler Mon franchise. Only 97 miles away from Pittsburgh. They stay around. That one just makes all sorts of sense for obvious reasons. The new high A team will be the Greensboro Grasshoppers. Those two had joined forces in 2019. So now they continue as a high A affiliate. And the Bradenton Marauders, playing in the spring training home of the Pittsburgh Pirates, will be now the low A team. They are the team that drops down from high A to low A. But again, all these clubs have some history with the Pirates. If you're a Pirates fan listening at home, you don't really have to update too much. All you got to do is flip Greensboro and Bradenton, and everything else is about the same.
As far as a visual consistency standpoint goes, the St. Louis Cardinals organization, when you look up and down the Cardinals ranks on our graphic at MILB.com, there's a lot of red, a little bit of blue, a lot of yellow. It's very consistent across the board from AAA on down through low A. Memphis Redbirds remain the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. There, again, there's not a whole lot of change in this system. The Springfield Cardinals, another term for, let's say, Red Birds. They're the AA affiliate formerly in the Texas League. And then another flip-flop, low A and high A, Peoria Chiefs, who are the former low A Midwest League club, now bumped up to high A, and the Palm Beach Cardinals, formerly in the Florida State League at high A, now the low A team. Peoria is the closest team to St. Louis, 168 miles away. And my favorite thing about this piece up at MILB.com, there are a lot of links in this piece to the logo stories that I wrote in 2020 about a lot of these franchises. And so I feel very good about that. If you want to go back and look at the Peoria Chiefs logo evolution, how they ended up with that Dalmatian wearing the fireman's hat, you can do that. Or, the Nashville Sounds or the Chattanooga Lookouts, whoever. There's a lot going on there.
One thing I've never noticed about the Chiefs logo, and Tyler, you can correct me very quickly if I'm wrong on this. but the way the hat is tilted, and please bring it up on your phone right now if you can't picture this in your head. But the red fireman hat is like tilted almost at the exact same angle as like the tail of all the other Cardinals.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
like
a good,
when you look at it next
yeah.
to Springfield and Palm Beach, it's almost like
It's
they
almost
took
like a
the Cardinal and
silhouette.
turned it into a hat.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's a good catch.
I think I'm thinking way too hard on this.
I think you are, especially just because of the fact that when they became the dog head logo, they were actually a Cubs affiliate. But still, that is true. And like if you were to just Photoshop out the dog's head, the hat itself does very much have like a Cardinal vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Man, what a catch, Sam.
I swear I'm completely sober right now, and I'm not like.
I'm very impressed.
Somebody tweeted. I asked this last night. Like, what do people listen to podcasts at? And they like what speeds? And they were like, you guys sound drunk at 0.5. And I was like, everybody does.
That is
There's
true.
nothing about me specifically.
Every once in a while, you like hit the button and it accidentally speeds up, and then you got to go back through the progression to get to 1x speed, normal speed. But when you do go through the 0.5 speed, and it's that really slow delivery of, everybody sounds, it's not the best sound for anybody. Although I sound like I'm at 1.5 times speed normally anyway, so I'm the flip side of that equation.
I mean, I have the same problem. When people were like, I listen to you guys at 1.2 or 1.5, I was like, I am sorry.
Like, how do you listen? I would
give myself a headache.
How do you digest any of that information? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So that is what the National League Central looks like moving into the 2021 minor league season, which again is set to go 2 months from today as we were recording this, May the 4th. If you are one of those Star Wars night stands, as the term goes, as the kids say these days, then you will be thrilled to know that May the 4th will still be on the minor league calendar as we anticipate right now. But man, it just feels good to have some light at the end of the tunnel. You mentioned the news about the availability of vaccines, hopefully by the end of April and into May, being there for all Americans who want them, and seeing real baseball on real fields, and getting minor league schedules back, and teams putting their promo schedules together, and where are these prospects going to be? Who's going to lead this level in home runs? The story at MLB Pipeline right now. It just feels good to feel good about something,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you hear how many stories of guys talking right now and just saying it's nice to have the actual sounds of the ballpark back.
Yeah.
Even if it's 20% capacity or whatever it is
right.
in Arizona and Florida, just even that murmur. Even that guy who's like yelling at you to swing, is just so much nicer than the canned stuff that we had.
The cardboard cutouts,
which was all necessary. I have no problem with anybody getting creative.
Absolutely,
in 2020. And if you're listening to this and you're in Arizona and Florida right now, please actually wear your mask when you're seated.
Do the right things.
Do the right thing. I'm so happy you're back at the ballpark. Be safe when you are at the ballpark. But it's nice to see that there is that light at the end of the tunnel, and that we could get there. And hopefully by like the end of the season, we're back to 100% capacity in some way. And that will be awesome. It's going to freak me out for a second. Like the next time I'm rubbing elbows with a stranger at a ballpark, but I might also be crying just out of sheer happiness.
I know exactly what you mean. And keep the faith, folks. We're getting closer every day to a world that looks like we remember it, I think. And that feels pretty good. So we will wrap up this week's episode of the show before the show. We'll be back with you next week, talk a little more about the grapefruit and the cactus leagues and what's going on in Arizona and Florida. And for Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Mon. Congratulations, Ben. Welcome to the world, Harry. We'll talk to you next week.